Well, hello. We are going to paint this scene, Huntington Harbor sailboat. It's a black and white study. Basically, I'm just using Payne's Gray. I'm using like a size 18 brush. What I'm trying to do here is just establish the gradients in the water, the lights to the darks. Here I'm just trying to get some texture in the water in the foreground. In the picture there is, this it's early morning, and there's some little just soft ripples, if you want to call them that. Yeah, so as it starts to progress, I'm working now on the tree line. Okay, just trying to establish the value patterns. Um, I want to try to set this painting up so that I can go back and paint some more. Here what I'm doing is I'm pulling out some of the highlights in the boat. Um, if you can remember what the picture looked like, there were some highlights. The morning light was kind of shining in on the sides of the hulls. I'll accentuate that later in the video. You'll see that coming back. And okay, so that's dry. I'm waiting. Here we go. So I'm going to start working on my shapes, getting a little bit more defined and getting the proper values now, where the first ones were sort of like an initial wash just for things that were a little lighter in the background. So sometimes what we have to do in watercolors, we have to foresee certain things happening. Um, it's easier to go around and working around in the negative, which simply means working around the shapes, because we can't paint over watercolor effectively. All right, so here I'm just adding more light and dark in those areas, getting some accents established a little bit more. Um, Now we also have to keep in mind that the water will the watercolor pigment will dry about 25% lighter, 15 to 20% lighter than the value that we initially put down. Here I'm just working on the boat shapes. There is a little bit of a gradation coming from left to right. That's why I just kind of blotted out that value there. Here I'm just establishing, even before I put the masts on, I'm putting the mast reflections in the water. As long as I get them to correspond, I'm okay. Again, I'm going back in, darkening some areas just for contrast. I want those boats that are in the midground to jump out a little bit more. I'm also just adding a little bit more of just some texture, some little waves happening, putting accents down while it's wet into wet. You'll see those brush strokes just kind of dissipate into the background there. Here, a little bit more movement. Get the blow dryer, just drying everything off. You can almost see it getting a little bit darker too there. Let's see. Okay, so more accent notes here and there in the picture under all the boats. We're actually starting to see something coming through the fog, right? We can see the boat, we can see the hulls sitting on top of the water. We can see the feeling of the gradation in the front, which looks pretty interesting. I mean, we got some tone. I believe I go back and I hit that again with some other colors. You could leave it at that color. In fact, I think this composition will change in the final color version. I think the design needs a little strengthening up. I think maybe the foreground is a little bit too overwhelming. But establishing the masts, using, I think it was a number 12 brush here. The only other brush I use, I went from an 18 to a 12, and then to a final small brush. I think it was a 6, and a liner brush that you'll see, actually rigger brush. Um, Okay, so it's coming alive a little bit more. We're getting some more contrasts happening. I'm blocking in that area. I do want that boat because that's basically our focal point. I want that boat in the middle or just off center to jump out a little bit more. Um, Now here I'm probably contemplating. Here we go. So I wet that area first. You can almost see the little shine on the lower right hand side. And what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get a nice soft gradient in there. Unfortunately, I think what happened there was the water kind of pooled up, and I have it taped down to the board that I'm filming on, and unfortunately, it just kind of pooled up in that area. Not a big deal. I will rectify that in the final. I'm going to be working on a slight angle. So everything kind of drips down. So there it is. I think I'm going to be going back here. Yep, here we go. Working on some more of the details in the picture. Um, Not really details. They're more accents than anything else. I don't want to get too detailed. I want to kind of keep the shapes very organic and ambiguous and impressionistic. Um, and I'm hoping that I'm going to carry that through into the color version as well. I think now I'm starting to work on some of the lines. I believe that was my rigger brush. Yep, it is the Escada. And I'm just getting those little lines. You can barely see them. Maybe you can. Some more little details, just little knickknacks, little details to, excuse me, to get some of those forms to jump. And I think we're good. I think I'm gonna, yeah, actually some more waves, little waves in here. Um, yeah. Just again, reestablishing some of the darks in that area. That is our focal point. Uh, we want to get that. Okay, so that was the Pro White, all right, or the actually the Dr. Martin's bleed proof white, white, bleed proof white. Okay, there it is. Here we go. So I'm just adding a little bit of light to the edges. Okay. Um, and going around and so because there will be light on those masks. I mean, they are aluminum. They would be very reflective. And here I'm just adding a little bit more shape to that mask cover, and just taking some of that white and running it across as if it was ripples in the water, or at least waves in the distance there, which would definitely condense. I think we're pretty close to the end on this. Yeah, so drying all that off. I think the next point is if I start taking the tape off, well, we're still going back to some of those little, oh, okay, of course, we've got to add some birds into the picture. That's optional. They're not really in the picture, but I'm putting some of the birds in as the positive and the negative birds. So we got a white bird where it was dark. We got a, okay, ooh, I am going back, and we're going to make that a little darker in the foreground. I think just a few little marks is all we need, just to get a few little feeling waves, soft waves coming up, okay? There it is. They're going to dry a little lighter, so I'm okay with that. We're getting a little bit more texture in the foreground, and I think that's it. That's all she wrote. There it is, the unveiling, the lifting of the tape. Okay, have a great day.